Let's talk about the Tennessee versus John Scopes case. This is one of the most famous cases in American history, probably the most famous case in the 1930s, with the exception of a few others. But Tennessee versus John Scopes. In 1925, a high school teacher, John Scopes, was accused of violating the Tennessee Butler Act. So let's look at some of the characters that get involved in this true trial. The bottom left-hand corner, the guy with kind of the flipped hair and the glasses, that is John Scopes. Just kind of an average, everyday science teacher. In the middle is William Jennings Bryan, which is ran for president 3 times and failed. But he was a very famous leader of the populist movement. And you guys remember the populist movement would have been the farming movement from the Great Plains area and in the middle of the United States. And then on the far right is Mr. Darrow. Now, you can see, read your Bible. This controversy is important to understand because it still exists today, especially in certain states like Kansas and I believe North Dakota. The Butler Act made it illegal to teach evolution in public schools. So John Scopes was accused of violating the Butler Act and going against Tennessee's law that says that a teacher could not teach the idea of evolution, or that people have changed over thousands and millions of years from hominids, which usually learn in middle school and talk about in science today. There are still some states that outlaw this because of religious reasons, and this debate continues. So let's look at what's going on. Now, when they took John Scopes to court, really what the case was very publicized, which means that it was public and all around the United States. Everybody's watching this case. It's very famous. It's a fundamentalist versus modernist controversy. Again, still today, there's a large movement of fundamentalist Americans, and there are a lot of modernist Americans. And the debate is alive and well. So let's define these terms. A modernist is somebody that believes in evolution that is not inconsistent with religion. So a modernist is somebody that could be Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or Hindu, and also believes that evolution is a scientific theory that has a lot of valid evidence. A fundamentalist is a person that interprets the Bible word for word. So fundamentalists interpret the Bible word for word. Modernists believe that you could believe in evolution and they don't necessarily connect with the Bible. So you could be a strong Christian but a modernist, not a fundamentalist. For example, Catholics are modernists in the sense that there's nothing in Catholicism that says they interpret the Bible literally. They're interpretists. Where some religions, like fundamentalist Pentecostals, might interpret that when they say the world was created in 7 days or 6 days and God rested on the seventh day, they actually believe word for word that the world was created in 6 days and that their belief in God took a break for 1 day. So these two schools of thought are still going to have controversy today. Now, William Jennings Bryan was the guy in the middle. It was the prosecutor, and Clarence Darrow was the defense of Scopes. And these are about as big as you get in terms of lawyers at the time. While Bryan's had never become president of the United States, he came pretty close as a third-party candidate, and he's really known as a great speaker. Clarence Darrow, on the other side, would have been kind of like the Johnny Cochran of the time. He loved to take cases where the odds were really against him, and he was considered a very witty, funny guy, and really effective at getting people off that were accused of several crimes in the past, and about as big as a name you could get as a lawyer. And he wanted to defend Scope's civil liberties. He thought it was a civil liberty issue. And remember, civil is your legal rights and liberties and your freedoms to believe or talk about something. And the question is, in some ways, about the First Amendment, the separation of church and state. And it gets very, very complicated very, very quickly. You talked about American government, how while this is a scientific theory, people do believe that there should be intelligent design, which is a Christian theory of how people come from one God. So the difference between religion and science, still today people argue that they can't go together, and that'd be more the fundamentalist school. While other people like the modernists say, no, you can be religious and spiritual and still believe in evolution. Things change over time and adapt, and that's evident. We can observe that daily. So Scopes was actually found guilty, and he had to pay a $100 fine, but he actually never did because of a technicality, and he got off without any consequences. But this case was watched by the whole United States and in the world around us. Interesting enough, this controversy that exists today, and I believe in the state of Kansas, you can't even teach evolution, is actually against their laws. In North Dakota, not very controversial in other countries, especially in Europe, like the British and the French. They tend to just be modernist and don't have this debate about fundamentalism. But also they have stronger roots maybe in Catholicism, and the Catholics tend to be more interpretive. So it's a really interesting, important case that still applies today and could be debated either way from different points of view. But we need to understand both points of view when we're talking about this case.